All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today, I'm talking with my friend John Hammond, who has actually written a book. Um, and for the right this second, the name just escaped me, but there is a link to it in the description below. The Stars Fell, or something like that. Is it called?
The Falling Star.
The Falling Star. Right.
Yes.
Right, which is pretty cool. I kind of perused it a little bit, not actually read any of it, but I like the idea behind it, which is really cool. And John, what I usually do here is I chat with people about their journeys away from whatever belief system they were once involved with, or a member of, or whatever, whether it be a religion or even wooey type fucking pseudoscientific shit and whatever. So basically, what I ask people is to kind of take us back, to the early days when you were a believer. Were you like indoctrinated, that kind of thing, and then sort of your journey, your way out, and once you sort of saw the dominoes starting to fall. What sort of started you thinking this might not exactly be as true as people tell me it is, and how that led you out and into becoming the atheist activist or whatever that you are today.
All right. Well, let's see. How much groundwork should I lay here?
It's entirely up to you, man.
I grew up in a single parent household for the most part. My mom had a degree in anthropology and
Cool.
was also accredited in like climate science and geology and things like that. So like I was exposed to a lot of mythology from different cultures, like long before I knew what the Bible even was. Like I
Right.
was aware of the fact that my grandmother was Catholic. And like my mom was sort of like open to whatever kind of spoke to her and would kind of follow those tributaries to wherever they went. Some would work out and she'd be like, okay, this is cool, and some wouldn't. So like back in the 90s, we had like a Buddhist monk that came and like stayed at our house for like a month or so while he was
Oh yeah.
doing his thing here in the States. Like I was introduced to the concept of faith, but I was like well into my teens before I really realized how seriously a lot of people take it. And even then it was still kind of only a superficial interest for me.
Okay.
I grew up thinking much more scientifically. When I was a kid, I was already observing that there were like lots of different types of birds, and they had, kind of their beaks were shaped differently and they used them differently, and things like that. I was in nature a lot. I watched a lot of Star Trek. So like if I'm honest, a lot of my moral compass probably actually comes from there. But
Right.
the difference is I actually realize that that's fictional and still applicable. Dune was also a huge influence on me.
Dune's good stuff. Yeah.
But like, so toward the end of my teens, I sat down and read the Bible for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and was like, oh, okay. Well, I know that can't be true. Okay, the Earth's not flat, and you can't, reverse the rotation or stop the rotation of the planet.
Right.
There were idiosyncrasies and stuff that kind of stuck out, but I still didn't take it too seriously. I was into like cryptids and
Oh yeah.
UFOs,
Yeah.
but I was also very skeptically minded. So like while I was interested in all this stuff and wanted to learn as much about it as I could, I kept coming to places where like it just wasn't fitting into stuff that, could actually exist in reality.
Right.
Um, so that kind of started the erosion process. Like I even got into Ancient Aliens for a while there, and that led me to like rediscovering Sumerian mythology, because I mean, like my mom told me the Epic of Gilgamesh as like a serialized bedtime story when I was a kid, but
Oh
like
wow.
getting more context for their whole pantheon and stuff, I was like, oh, wait a minute, I remember this. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. When I read the Bible for the first time and I got to the flood myth, I was like, wait a minute, I
This
know
sounds
this
familiar.
story.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so like as deep as I would get into these things, it would always come to some point where I came up against something where I'm like, okay, I know for a fact that's not true, because it can't be true. And then, you know, through the influence of various other books I'd read, like Paradise Lost, and you know, I'd read a couple of issues of Sandman and some other things.
Neil Gaiman, nice.
Yeah, and I was reading Dune at the same time. So I was getting really into how religion is used as like a tool of statecraft, and you know, power bases, and what cult mentalities do to people psychologically. And I was starting to kind of see the threads of that, and then I got the idea of wanting to actually tell the story of the war in heaven that's always like alluded to but never really shown in detail.
Hang on a second, John.
Yeah.
People in the chat have just said you're a little low volume wise. Is there a way you can turn it up a little bit?
Well, it's up all the way. I can hold the microphone next to my face. Is that better?
Well, that's going to kind of be tiring after a while.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it working then just I don't know. You can't put it down, sort of just lean into it or something, or tie a rope around it and ride it around your neck. I actually ordered some of those little mini ones that you clip onto your shirt that I'll be using for like when I'm out.
On the bottom.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like extend, so really my best bet might actually be to just hold it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So.
Yeah. So I wanted to tell the story of the war in heaven, because I thought it was cool. You know, it's an interesting story, and it's never really been told. So then I like put my real critical glasses on and started like really in-depth reading, not just the Bible, but like a lot of the apocryphal stuff like Enoch, and also a lot of like Canaanite mythology, and more Sumerian and Babylonian stuff, and was just kind of trying to build sort of a mental picture of what it all actually looked like. And so the deeper I got into it, I sort of gradually came to the realization that not only do I not believe that any of that actually happened, but like I've come to the conclusion that it can actually be extremely detrimental to society in general in like this whole myriad of different ways. So that not only helped me realize who I am as a person and how I think, but it also really gave focus to my story, because I was like, oh, okay, so what I need to do is do this sort of like Dune, how it takes a deconstructionist approach to the concept of a hero. I wanted to sort of deconstruct the Bible from the inside out by retelling it from the perspective of the supposed villain character. And
Lucifer or whatever, right? I guess.
Right. Give it his first person perspective. So it's part retelling, part an inverted hero's journey, part a critical analysis, because, you know, his internal monologue kind of breaks apart a lot of the logically fallacious stuff. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there. Like it was definitely a progress over the process of writing and illustrating The Falling Stars, how I came to the realization that I'm atheist, and that by having sort of a talent with words, and more importantly with illustration, that I was sort of ideally situated to look at these stories from a more outside perspective, sort of flip the narrative, and just sort of pick it apart from the inside in a whole bunch of different ways.
Very cool. Okay, so you were never really, I guess you wouldn't say you were really overly religious. You probably, like, did you ever think that there was something up there? Or?
I thought it was possible. My mother certainly believed in a concept of the Great Spirit.
Sure.
But like when she was teaching me stuff as a kid, it was always like, well, some people believe this. Like, usually she would refrain, even when it was something that she personally believed, she often wouldn't phrase it as, I believe this, just some people believe this. And she just sort of gave me and my siblings free rein to kind of explore these concepts. You know, she'd provide information, but would really encourage us to run with it in whatever direction we wanted to run with it.
Well, and actually, that's a good way to do it, I think, is to propose all these ideas to your kids and let them, you know, look into it, investigate, whatever. And if they find something appealing, they feel free to become, you know, whatever that is, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure. It's always good to encourage your kids to learn about the world belief systems, I think.
I think so too.
If they like one, go for it. If not, then hey, do you, whatever it is.
And also, regardless of whether or not the things that these people believe are true, they believe them. So like that sort of dictates their perception of reality. So I feel like the more we know about these beliefs, the easier it'll be to understand where these people are coming from.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm trying to instill that in my kids.
That's a good idea. I remember though, the beliefs aren't exactly, most beliefs are you're either convinced of something or you're not, right? It's not like, because someone can tell you something and tell you that it's true, and you'll be like, yeah, I don't buy it. So you're not convinced of that. So basically, your beliefs aren't something that you choose. You're either convinced or you're not, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And
so
you know what's
that's why I say it's good to encourage. Yes, it's good to encourage kids to think as well as look into all these different aspects of belief.
Especially if you're putting an emphasis on critical thinking. Like sometimes I'll say ridiculous things to my kids on purpose. Actively encouraging them to call me on it and explain their reasoning as to why they know that I'm full of shit right now. It's a good mental exercise.
Fair enough. I have a friend in the chat who actually posts these fun facts, and he said that he didn't really know you, so he always does. They're not like real facts; they're just funny shit that he makes up. And one of them was apparently I have a cabinet in my house that's full of smashed pumpkins and shrunken heads, and we don't ask questions. Which is actually he's not actually far off from the truth. No smashed pumpkins, but I have some shrunken heads.
No smashing pumpkins?
Well, the band I have a couple of CDs, but. And tunes on the computer, of course. But I did have some shrunken heads that I got from, I can't remember what it is, some fair somewhere that I thought they look pretty neat. And they even had these little apple ones. You know how you carve them into faces and you let them kind of rot and they shrink up and they look all wrinkly. Yes. They look like, I had a couple of those, but of course they're long gone because, nothing lasts forever. Right. So, and they kind of rotted away eventually, but.
Well, that's cool.
So what that actually kind of, when you told me that your mom was reading you the Epic of Gilgamesh as a bedtime story, I was like, holy shit, I don't think I've ever heard anyone doing that.
Or rather, she was telling it like from memory off the top of her head.
Right.
We didn't have a book of it.
Okay. Fair enough. But still, that's really neat. I never heard of anyone doing something like that before. So that's kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. My mother was a storyteller too.
Yeah, that's good. Now you know where you get it from.
Yeah. Indeed.
So what was it because of all that sort of shit that inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, it really was. Cause like on the one hand, I love to tell a good story, especially if it can be like intensely philosophical, but also have like fight scenes with superpowered beings that can throw each other through mountains and shit. Like that's a nice little valley and peak to go through in your story. But also, it occurred to me at some point that if I'm breaking apart these stories in context, it might actually help people, fence sitters, to see it broken down, to see the entire story encapsulated in something that you can read the whole, all the major bullet points in an afternoon and walk away with it, with a much better understanding of the source material, and more importantly, a much better understanding of why the source material doesn't actually make sense. Like, even
Right.
within its own context.
Sure.
Like, because I can't get too far into like the actual history or the evolution of Yahweh as a character, because it, essentially break the fourth wall. I still have to make the version that I'm writing line up with the common expectations to a certain point, while still flipping the narrative and having an inverted hero's journey starring Satan and showing the seeds of the growing rebellion and why the Yahweh character is actually a fucking psychopath by any rational standard.
I don't disagree there. That's for sure. If you
so
look
yeah,
at the
I
shit
thought,
that's written about him.
a multi-pronged approach, it can be entertainment, it can be informative in several different ways. And like, that felt important to me to do that. And it's kind of my best chance to kind of show the world what I'm capable of, because I am a good writer and I'm pretty good at illustrating too. And I like to think that my logical thought processes are pretty on point, but I can also do like voice act. Like, I consciously modeled the POV character after my own likeness, just in case I can like get the funding to create like an animated version of it, because I can definitely do the voice acting, and I have the martial art experience to like do the like motion capture, to do all the fight choreography and stuff like that.
Sure.
So like, yeah, it's kind of my vehicle to really show everyone what I can do and actually do something with my voice and the talents that I've spent all these years developing.
Very cool. Yeah, I do voice stuff too. I can
Yeah.
do multiple different types of voice. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, but Prophet of Zod was in there, and I've done a couple for
Sweet.
him.
I like
One
him.
of them was more or less my own voice, but in the other one I know I could do much better at it, but the recording of it was not the best, just simply because of the situation I was in at the time. But I could do much better now, and I did the Ray Comfort voice for his Bible Jeopardy video thing.
I remember that one.
Yeah, and I did that one.
Awesome.
And I played old Zod in Into the Zodverse.
Yes, I remember that too.
A lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, I can do all kinds of voices.
Sweet. It's really fun. I enjoy that a lot.
It is a lot of fun. But I think I'll wait to do more, unless it's a better studio, I guess you could say, because I don't really have any sound absorbing shit in here like you see like on Eric Murphy's channel or Matt's channel when they do their stuff. You can see all that foamy shit in the background, and that does help a lot. And the room I'm in here is quite spacious, so I'd literally have to put, and it's the middle of fucking August and hotter than fuck here, and I'd have to put a blanket over my head, right, just to get all the lack of echo going on. So definitely need to get a better setup to do voice work for sure.
Oh, same here. That's been sort of the audio issue, and the video quality of my webcam isn't so great either. So that's
make a blanket fort.
Yes,
that's awesome. That's my good friend Russ there, frustrated atheist. He's the guy doing the fun facts I told you about.
Ah, awesome.
Oh, Jesus Wizard just did I don't know, can you see the chat? If you look up to the right, you'll have an option for the chat there, I think. And my producer extraordinaire, Mikey Famine, is in the chat today.
Nice.
I'm kind of hoping he can join us for the after party afterwards.
Oh, hey, I can see it. All right.
There's Prophet of Zod. He says, It doesn't have to be fancy. A couple of blankets on the walls can do it, which is true. It's true. Anything that has an absorption kind of property to it can do that, especially when it comes to sound.
Excellent.
He's literally, I've literally recorded in a blanket fort. Okay, I need to build a blanket fort now.
Right? I got a
'Cause
whole
I
bunch
love
of
doing the voice stuff. There you go.
Because yeah, I miss doing that sort of thing. Like since quarantine hit, like I did a couple of like karaoke videos, and I did sort of a voice characterization of the first chapter of like a Dracula comic that I had just ordered off of Amazon.
I saw that. Yeah.
Mike Mignola illustrate. I fucking
Yep.
love him.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I had fun with that, but I haven't done any videos of substance in a while. I've just been kind of screwing around and working on the follow-up to The Falling Star, and
Right.
playing with my kids because they got nothing better to do either, and we're kind of
True.
stuck here. So,
See some sweet ass action figures behind you.
oh yeah, that's Litos Godzilla.
No, there you go. I thought it was Godzilla. I'm like, that looks very Godzilla-esque.
Oh, it's totally Godzilla.
Godzilla's awesome.
Yes, indeed.
Did you see that fucking, I don't know, it was on Netflix. It was some horrible Godzilla thing where it was in the future and the Earth things came back to Earth because it was overrun. Yeah. It was terrible.
I saw the first one. I think
There's
there was
3
like
of them, I think.
Yeah. I do remember seeing the first one. I didn't like the character design for Godzilla very much. I sort of appreciated the premise. Like I definitely appreciated the fact that when they used warp drive, for lack of a better term, you know, that time displacement was still an issue. Like I like how that played into it, but the rest of the movie just kind of plodded along, and I was like, okay, the animation's all right, some cool lighting, but like, what are we doing? We're just kind of milling about on the planet. Oh well.
I just thought it had a weak story to it, and it was just I mean the version, and then they had King Ghidorah come in the end of it all, right? And it was
I heard something about that.
Fucking horrible version of him too. It was just terrible.
Oh yeah. I saw that character design. It was like really, really slim and viney.
Yeah, and it would like tentacles almost. Their heads were on the end of it. It was fucking weird, man. Like, that's not him. What are you doing? Anyway.
I concur.
Stop messing with our Godzilla world here, people. I mean, obviously there have been some bad movies in the chain of it too.
Yes.
But I like the old cheesy ones. I like the old cheesy ones where they're stomping on the little model cities and shit like that and fighting each other. That's great stuff. Or where Godzilla's like riding his tail on the ground. That's fucking epic shit right there.
Yeah, and the
bad
flying
it's good.
The atomic breath thing.
Yeah. So bad it's good.
That's some good cheese.
Yeah, absolutely. So, is your mom still believe in anything like that, or?
Oh no, my mom died in 2014.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't realize that.
Not really around anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, so did you end up in any sort of like any pagan belief systems or anything like that along the route? Because you were talking about how you kind of were looking into those kinds of things, I suppose. And
yeah, you know, I have sort of a philosophical appreciation for Buddhism in terms of its, but even so, the things that I'm referring to are sort of a common thread of compassion and things like that. Like, I don't think reincarnation is a thing.
No, of course not.
And I don't think karma is a thing either.
No, it's not. There's no way. So that's a human construct.
Yeah. So it's more like I sort of investigated different beliefs and religions and got as far as a point where there were too many things where I was like, no, that can't be right. And that doesn't make sense. And would then just kind of cautiously walk away.
What about like were you ever in relationships with people that were like believers and stuff like that? And did that ever have any friction or anything like that?
Yeah, it did. Yes, it does sometimes. Like in my teens, before I was really taking a stance, the girl I was dating at the time, her family identified as very Christian, and they got so angry with me when I asked why an all-powerful, like really godly God would have a determinate gender.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it seems like, an all-powerful God wouldn't specifically have a penis, or anything.
I wonder
like
if it
that.
was circumcised.
Right, so a specifically circumcised penis. So yeah.
Those are legit questions I asked when I was a kid, by the way.
As a bit of an issue. And I was like 17 at the time, and it still hadn't really dawned on me how seriously people take it pretty much until that moment, when they got just so mad about that. And I was kind of ostracized from then on. So that didn't go over well. But like I've also been able to maintain respectful, healthy relationships with people that do have beliefs that I don't share. Because, well, if I care about someone, I don't want to try to invalidate anything that they are like so deep in that it's kind of part of how they perceive themselves. I'll sort of leave breadcrumbs and, present scientific facts and things like that, but I'm not gonna, try to make them feel shitty about it if I can. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes I say things without thinking of it that do actually hurt people's feelings when I'm not actually meaning to. Because
it's like an autonomic response or something. When somebody says something, you blurt it out because
I could be very, crass and just break someone down completely if I wanted to, but I don't get anything out of that. The conversation doesn't go anywhere. It's basically I'm just kind of mentally jerking myself off, so to speak, and that's not productive, and it just ends up hurting people I care about.
Yeah, which you don't really want to do. I mean,
yeah, as long as
there's
it's not
better ways.
That's dangerous, like I'll confront my friends on like anti-vaxxer shit, or if I, have a friend that's a flat earther, like that. A flat earther, that doesn't matter as much, but like not vaccinating your kids, or things that like have real world consequences, especially ones that go to children or misinform a large portion of the populace. That's why I spend so much time, trying to like debunk QAnon claims among my like peers on Facebook and shit like that. Because like, I don't know, man. It seems like the more things that are out there that are actively making people dumber, the worse everyone is off. So it's a very fine
making
line.
People sounds like the president down there. Actively making people dumber.
Yeah, like that. So yeah, it all depends on how invested I am, A, in the person, A, in, or B, in like how important the specific subject is, and like whether or not I think the conversation will actually go anywhere or not. Because a lot of people just don't want to hear it anyway.
True.
So
that's very true.
In cases like that, my hands are kind of tied. I can present the material. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him walk on it.
Yeah. Oh man, you just reminded me of this funny meme the other day. They showed the before picture and after picture after it's been photoshopped or whatever, and it's got there's a picture of this German Shepherd standing on a frozen lake, but it doesn't look like ice. It looks like a sheet of water. That's the kind, because there's probably a little bit on top of the ice.
Right.
And then the next one underneath it's got Jesus with a leash to the dog, saying Jesus' dog, and they're both walking on the water. Kind of looks kind of funny. It's pretty neat.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It's amazing what you can do with fucking Photoshop, man. It's too funny.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. I work primarily in Photoshop. So that's another one of the things is like, back in the day, I was part of like Atlantean Facebook groups and,
Jesus.
and this shit. And the things that these people were posting, it's like, okay, that's like really obvious Photoshop. And they're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, actually, my older brother works for Adobe Systems. Like, I've had access to Photoshop since like 1994. I've been playing with it since then. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I can tell you exactly what the problem is. Like the lighting's different right there, or the focus of that part of the image is different than that part of the image, and that wouldn't happen if you had just snapped a photo. Some of these things are like glaringly obvious.
Sure.
But they still get shared all over the place. So I sort of feel like I have a responsibility to point it out.
I don't think it's your responsibility to do that. Just maybe talk to the people that are posting these sorts of things and say, hey, look, you should probably tidy it up a little bit. Or
maybe compulsion would be a better term then.
Yeah.
Held to say something.
Yeah. Especially if that's what you do like all the time.
Well,
that's part of what you do for a living, right? I mean, your illustrations for your book and shit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I spend hours in Photoshop like every day. Right now I'm adding a crap ton of halftones, and it's a really time-consuming, tedious process.
Yeah, no, I bet it can be for sure. I used to fuck around with Photoshop back in the day, one of the first few incarnations of it, so in the 90s and stuff like that. And you can do a lot with those programs. And I was never really good at it, but I have people for that now. So I don't have to worry about that shit anymore.
I have the minions to do that for.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to call them minions, although minions are hilarious. But no, I give them ideas. I say, listen, I'm looking for this, and this, and I suck at it. And you're excellent at it. So here's my idea. You can see what you can come up with. And I'll always pay them for their work, of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
As you should.
Yeah.
These skills take a while to practice.
Exactly.
Learn. Like,
exactly.
Oh man, my scanner broke a couple of years ago, so like half of my book was illustrated with a friggin' mouse. It was grueling.
Old man Dan's like, Atlantis, there are face groups for Atlantis? We are definitely more screwed than I realized.
Yeah.
Yes, there are people that actually believe that Atlantis was a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not really realizing that it was just fictitious. Yeah.
His true history.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
all manner of other strange things.
Indeed. Yeah. Like you were talking about a little bit earlier, the whole like the supernatural side of things, like cryptids and ufology and shit like that. I was right in there, dude. I went on a Bigfoot hunt here. Of course, we were fucking drunk and stoned, so we don't really look at Bigfoot or anything. We're just out in the woods going, hey, let's see if we can find some Sasquatches. I'm wandering around. I'm surprised, actually, that we didn't get lost, to be honest. We ended up
I'm glad you didn't.
mulling our way over to the top end of a river that had this nice little bank on it. We could jump into the river. Like, this is a 35-foot bank or something. So we ended up jumping into the river all day, drunk out of our skulls. I'm surprised none of us killed ourselves doing it, to be honest.
Right. Well, hey, I'm glad it turned out well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And honestly, I haven't been back to do that since that day. And that was probably 98, I think, somewhere around there.
Oh, wow.
It's just, Yeah, but sure, man. I was into a lot of oddball sort of things. And, I'm not going to say that I believe that aliens have visited us. I don't think so. Maybe a couple of flybys, but
I think it's possible.
Sure.
I think it's highly probable that there's other intelligent life in the universe.
Probable is a good word to put it. Yeah. I mean, if we popped up, there has to be the billions of systems out there. There's got to be. literally trillions upon trillions of systems out there. There's got to be at least a couple of more civilizations out there. Whether they're at our level, hey, who knows? We could be the first or the last. Like I think it was Sagan or somebody that said that. But you never know, right? Because let's face it, the universe has been around for fucking 14 billion years or almost 14 billion years or some shit like that. So,
right.
Yeah, you never know.
And as to
but
whether
the cryptid thing.
Oh yeah, the cryptids.
Yeah, like the whole Bigfoot thing. What's his name? The guy that had the footprints, the initial ones. His name's not coming to me off the top of my head. It ended up that he had stamps and it was originally for a prank for a bunch of college kids, I think, or something, or people in the neighborhood. So and he put them out there, and I guess somebody took it seriously, and everything blossomed. And plus the famous photo too of the beach walk.
Yes.
that those guys took, and they admitted that it was fake, right? So same with the Loch Ness monster photo. It was actually a little tiny submarine with a head thing sticking out of it that they took a photo of, and
yeah,
it all came true.
On that note, I'm not entirely sure that plesiosaurs could actually arch their neck like that anyway. Yeah. So
if it's a plesiosaur,
that was an admitted hoax.
Oh yeah.
And
Mothman's just far too unrealistic for me to even consider.
Oh yeah. Okay, so in 2004, I had a very interesting experience. It's part of what sort of got me to learn more about neurology and figure out what was actually going on, because like how it seemed from my perspective seemed supernatural, sure. But I wasn't satisfied with that explanation, and I've since come to the conclusion that it was a series of hallucinations brought on by sleep paralysis. But like for all intents and purposes, the way I was looking at it at the time, it seemed like I was being attacked by some kind of spirit.
Oh yeah.
So like,
wait, whoa, go into that a little bit. What do you mean? What happened to you that you thought that? So
I was camping out like up above Tonasket, Washington, because I was working as a farmhand, and was like, you know what, screw it, I'll just put a tent close to town and walk in every morning. Sure. And so I set up my tent, and in the night I woke up and I couldn't move, and it was like really, really cold. And I remember being able to see my breath. I remember the whole, like how people report out of body experiences.
Sure. Yeah.
And there was like this sort of like a slow moving wave of darkness sort of approaching the tent from my in the sky view.
Okay.
As it were. And then there was just like this terrifying face screaming like right in my face. Actually illustrated the whole thing into like an 8-page comic and put it into a horror anthology for AP&P Comics back in like 2013. And so like it was gone, and I spent what seemed like a very long time sort of being able to move my body again. And so I moved my tent, and then I had a similar but very, very different experience the following night, where it was basically a wet dream. Where it was sort of like a young, voluptuous version of the same thing. It still had blue skin and like silvery hair that looked like it was underwater. But yeah, so it was a very weird, very visceral experience. I'm assuming the scratches on my chest were self-inflicted. And yeah, so I ended up like spending most of the rest of like the next day at the library reading up on sleep paralysis. But like at the time, it sure seemed like a succubus attack, from the lore that I'd sort of absorbed over the course of my life.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess that just sort of goes to show my kind of nature. I'm not really satisfied with a supernatural explanation. I'll try to explain it more logically, something with some science to back it up.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, if you want to check out that comic, it's on my DeviantArt. It's like 8 pages long, and it gives a more detailed version of that account, and there's pretty pictures.
Pretty big. I have a link below to that DeviantArt page, guys. So definitely check it out. I looked at some of it, and you're really good at what you do, dude. I'll give you that for sure. Some great
Thanks.
artwork.
Yeah, I didn't put much effort into the art for Succubus. I just kind of did basic line art and tried to use the coloring and lighting to sell it more than the details, which is sort of the opposite of my normal approach. Like if you look at even just the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's one panel in The Falling Star, but just that illustration alone took like 25 hours because it's just ridiculously detailed. And like when I look at it, it reminds me of what I was doing at the time. Like when I was inking, I was listening to Hannah and Jake doing their Jesus Camp video.
Yeah. That's for you.
Like so when I look at down there where the little tiny palm trees are, I can remember what they were saying at the time. It's like, oh, that's so weird how memory is associated that way.
Yeah, sleep paralysis is a crazy thing. It's happened to me, I think, a couple of times in my whole life. But it's bizarre. Like nothing really, no aliens or anything like that. But I remember being awake but not being able to move.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, I didn't come to the conclusion, oh, something's pinning me down. I just thought, oh, I'm in this weird state where I'm not quite awake yet. And I remember thinking that. Mm-hmm. And then I guess a couple of minutes had passed, and then all of a sudden I could start moving. So, but yeah, I mean, I was considering screaming for help because I was young when that happened the first time.
Right.
13, maybe 14. And so I was still at home. And I was thinking of screaming, and I thought, no, let's just see what happens. And of course, yeah. And actually, now that you mentioned it, I do remember not really being able to yell at first, right?
So do I. And hardly being able to breathe.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think I had that much of an issue with the breathing, but still,
well, that's good.
I remember it being really, really low and shallow. That I do remember. Like it was like I was kind of shallow breaths, right? But I could still breathe, so it didn't panic me in that way. But yeah, it's a bizarre thing to have happen. And it happened again in my 20s, and I already knew what it was. So I just said, fuck this, I'm going back to sleep. And I just nodded back off again. Right? So
that's a good way to handle it.
Yeah.
And being terrified.
Well, if you've already experienced it, then you realize right away what it is, especially after you've had it the first time.
That's the thing, though. I had a couple of episodes of sleep paralysis where I was just kind of stuck under my blankets and couldn't breathe, and there weren't any associated audio or visual hallucinations. This time there was. That's what made it stand out so much, because it felt so different. I think I was just way deeper into it than I'd been before.
That's possible. Yeah, for sure. Well, my friend, so you didn't really have much of a religious background. Was there anything that maybe stood out that almost caught your attention enough to make you want to be a part of that belief system?
Well, not really. There was.
I mean, Buddhism, I could see, because you were mentioning that earlier, and there's a lot of really interesting things involved with Buddhism and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's some interesting concepts for sure. And I mean, once I got into Judaism and Christianity, it did become very, very interesting to me. Despite not taking it at face value, it's still something I find really fascinating and, want to learn about as much as possible. And not just so that I can write and illustrate fan fiction either. It's just kind of fascinating because it's this window into the mindset of ancient people. And and it makes the past come alive in this really wonderful way where, regardless of how ridiculous a specific thing that they're saying might be, it's still kind of cool to kind of put myself in those shoes and view the world through that lens and just be like, wow, just wow. That's
Yep,
so
absolutely.
great. And
Shit,
you know,
I'm
like
trying to find something here.
in my early teens, you know, there were like youth groups that I'd try to get involved in just for sort of the social camaraderie aspect, because I never really,
Like religion-based ones?
well, they were all superficially Christian, you know,
Oh,
at
I
least
see. Okay.
were available where I was growing up. But like you know, I wasn't taking it seriously. I really just wanted to kind of try to relate to other people, because that was always kind of hard for me. You know, there's a reason that when I started watching Star Trek at 5, I like really gravitated toward the character of Spock. You know, because
Right.
I always kind of felt like that alien looking inward from the outside, trying to figure out like what is going on with these people, like just all people. So yeah, so once I got to be a teen and like actually started being more self-aware and kind of wanting to be like, you know, I'd go to different youth groups and stuff. But even then, the proselytizing certainly didn't take. You know, they would ask us things like to pick a random Bible passage, and I would I would just recite the fake Bible passage from Pulp Fiction off the top of my head just to kind of fuck with them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It was funny. So yeah, that even that didn't really work. I just sort of ended up petering off and doing other things. Ended up drawing
Probably.
a lot.
Yeah. I was going to say you're probably better off for that, though.
This is true, because it would have been artificial anyway. You know,
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't have been able to let anyone into the inner sanctum of how I think, because they would have thought I was in league with something.
In league with Satan.
BG Price asks, "What is the fake passage?" That's the path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he's truly his brother's keeper and a finder of lost souls. And I shall strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know that I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. That one.
Wow. You memorized that shit?
Yeah, but like it's not like only a little bit of that is even paraphrasing actual Ezekiel 25:17. But yeah, I memorize shit all the time. Like I can't stop doing it. It just happens.
True enough. Oh man, I'm trying to find some shit here and I can't fucking find it. Oh well. I may not actually have the copy of it, but I thought I may only have it on Audible. So you were talking about how the mind of men, especially ancient man, worked, and I found a really interesting book that kind of talks about that sort of thing, about our ape brains,
Right,
and how we tend to behave like our ape brethren. The whole killing of the firstborn thing, right? Like animals in general do that a lot. Like lions and apes will wipe out the children of the harem or the pride or whatever, so that their bloodline becomes the one that. That's
us being human.
Yeah,
I mean, hell, even our modern social practices really aren't that far removed from regular primate behavior. Like
right.
we have like Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff, but we're still just apes sitting in trees shouting at each other through the void in between, you know?
Yep.
I mean, it's still the same thing. We're just more sophisticated and pretentious about it.
Yep, for sure. I agree. Well, my friend, yeah. My phone, I have a couple of interesting notification sounds. I got the Mario coin. I've got the Star Trek communicator one. And my ringtone is the Spider-Man theme song.
Nice.
The original Spider-Man theme song. So Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. From the 60s TV show.
Oh, yes.
Which I never missed.
Yeah, I liked that show too. It wasn't alive in the 60s.
Yeah. I was born in 66. So. Loud noises. Sorry, guys. I've been mucking around. I thought I had a copy of Hector Garcia's book. But I just happen to have it on the Audible app, and I don't have the hard copy, but I am getting the hard copy. So
excellent.
Yeah,
frustrated. Just quoted the Boondock Saints. That's a good one too. Their whole power hath descended forth from thy hand, and a feet may swiftly carry out thy command thing.
Oh yeah. Or a fact concerning Neil, just don't tell him you are out of good Canadian beer.
Dun, dun, dun.
American beer. My dad used to have a saying about American beer. I'm sure it wasn't his saying. I'm sure he stole it from elsewhere because I've heard it elsewhere too. Says American beer is like making love in a canoe, fucking close to water. Of course, there's some shitty Canadian brands too, but old man everywhere. Dan, you're correct. Hector Garcia book is really good, but the name of it has escaped me for some fucking reason. And of course, I could just look in the Audible app and see what it is. But highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Definitely do. Jesus, Dragnot, stop going live at the same time I am. Hang on, what is it called here? Son of a... Just look at Alpha God. That's what it's called. Alpha God. Yeah, the psychology.
This is
the psychology of religious violence and oppression. And the cool thing about the Audible version of his book is the narrator of the book, the one and only Seth Andrews narrates.
Right? Excellent. So, very well spoken, man. That sounds perfect.
He is indeed. But right now, I'm currently listening to Godless by Dan Barker, and I am eventually going to be picking up a copy of that one too. And I'm working on getting him on the show as well as Lori Gaylor as well, because I've already had Andrew Seidel on here, or Andrew Seidel actually is how you pronounce it. Oh. And I got his book too, The Founding Myth, which is another really good book.
Hell yeah.
No, not the Monkey Brain, Dan. It's the one I just mentioned. Shit, now I can't even remember again. I just looked at it too.
The Alpha God.
Alpha God, thank you. That's the one. Yeah.
Taking notes.
Yeah, I'm actually listening to a few books right now. The one that I just mentioned there with Dan Barker's book, and Consciousness, Daniel C. Dennett, his latest book on consciousness, which is also really intriguing as well.
Awesome.
But my friend, we're almost up at the hour. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm the last week I've been getting a whole bunch of new reading material recommended to me, and it's great that there's audiobooks available. Because though I'm an avid reader and really enjoy doing it, my time has also become kind of sacrosanct. So it's really handy to be able to have content to listen to like while I'm drawing, because then I'm doing both at the same time.
Right on.
I can learn more and still accomplish, my goals for the day. You gotta ink whatever page or whatever. And yeah, more things I can do simultaneously, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Multitasking.
Get more done that way. I also get exhausted that way, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Oh, pardon me. So Tons of Mice has said Seth Andrews' new audiobook is supposed to be out on Audible next week. Yeah, I heard that too. I actually have a copy of his latest book, the whole Fox News thingy thing that he wrote about coming. I ordered it, and I ordered the autograph one, so I already have one of his books autographed. The
Sweet.
The cows one, No Sacred Cows one. I have all of his books so far, and I got a bunch I'll be bringing with me to the Faithless Forum next year to have the authors down there sign them for me. So it's like Aaron Ra's Foundations of Falsehoods of Christianity, a couple other ones too. And I'll have the Hector book by then, and I'll get him to autograph it as well. He said he would anyways the last time I had lunch with him. It was him and me and Anthony Magnabosco and my friend that I knew from down there. We all four of us went to a nice little Mexican place and had some fajitas, which was really tasty. Yeah. But anyway, let's get into an after party. You still good for that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, kids are in bed. I was just playing in Photoshop anyway, so
all right.
By all means.
Go for another hour or so and hang out with some other folks. That's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to go into an after party. John, thank you, man, for joining me today. I know there wasn't a lot of religion involved, but there was definitely some interesting things that we spoke about. And the whole one of the things that I'm glad we touched on was your book and the whole idea behind that perspective from the alleged bad guy, right? That whole thing about is a really neat concept.
When I read the Bible, God came off as the bad guy, because I sort of read it in isolation the first time I went through it. And then after the fact kind of realized, oh, wait, he's supposed to be the good guy of the story? What?
Right. Right.
So, yeah, it made sense to try to flip that a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant idea. So, yeah, thanks again, dude, for joining me. It was great to get to chat with you. I appreciate that you came on. Yeah, man, always a good time, I think, to meet more and more people in I use this term loosely, but the atheist community, because our community tends to be splintered most of the time. So, oh yeah,
it's nice to be able to interact with more other people that I've been watching, or more accurately listening to everyone's content for years, but haven't got to interact directly with until fairly recently. So this is pretty cool.
Good. Yeah, so it's always good to get in there and get active in there. Everyone's voice should be heard, man, because I think we all have something to contribute.
I think so too.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And everyone in the chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. We are going to do an after party, so if you are interested in jumping in for about an hour or so, I don't know if I'm gonna, but because I've already put away a few of these today. So, and I got a buddy where they're doing his birthday party on his boat down in the marina. So yeah, but I think I'll pass on that one. I'll just pop a couple of gummy bears and stick around and watch some more Sons of Anarchy or something.
Oh,
yeah, finally getting to that one. I'm in the middle of that one and Vikings, which is another good one. But
I still haven't able to check out either of those, but I have definite interest.
Well, they're good. They're both really good. Yeah, they're both quite good.
Excellent.
Anyway, all right, guys. Like I always say before I end the show, because of the whole coronavirus thing that's going on right now, remember to be safe and be well, and above all, be kind. And how I always close out my shows, like the late great Christopher. Yes, definitely wear a fucking mask, okay, guys? So the late great. That's the one I got from Canadian Blood Services, by the way. So, because I forgot mine at home, and they're like, "Oh shit! Well, we have extras," and then they give you one of those. Notice it's red, of course, with the white border, Canadian. And I was going to take a Jiffy mark and put a big blood splatter mark all over the front of it, but I thought maybe I won't do that. But anyways, like I always say at the end of these things, and David Worley shows up right on time at the end, as usual. Hey, David. Like the late great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time. A link below for the after party. So check it out. See you guys.